The following was originally published in 2018, and while I stand by the critiques of The Last Jedi I make, I deeply regret any direct personal attacks I make against Rian Johnson, Kathleen Kennedy, or any other employee of Lucasfilm. Those comments were made in anger and frustration, and I will do a separate video about that after this series.
Recently, I talked about the Star Trek The Next Generation episode Best of Both Worlds Part 2, in which in part included the Battle of Wolf 359, considered to be the greatest disaster to ever befall Starfleet. So, how do you follow that up? Simple, really. Let's talk about the greatest disaster to befall Star Wars, The Last Jedi. Regardless of if you loved The Last Jedi or hated it, one thing is undeniable. It has clearly been the most divisive Star Wars movie ever. Much of that divisiveness has revolved around the political nature of the film, the so-called social justice warrior agenda that many have accused this film of being a propaganda piece for. Further, the film has been accused of being used for various other political agendas, such as animal rights, anti-man, anti-white, anti-meat, anti-rich, anti-trekker. Because of much of that, there are many, including Rian Johnson, J.J. Abrams, Kathleen Kennedy, and a slew of online pundits that accuse many of us that dislike the film as simply disliking it based on opposition to the political agenda. So if you did not like the films, it must be because you hate women, or you hate vegetarians, or black people, or something that this film apparently portrays as positive. To those people, I want to say this. I hear you. And yes, there are people out there who may well hate the film because of their political agenda or feelings of bigotry or sexism. Therefore, I want to offer you this review. In this review, I will not in any way criticize the movie based on race, gender, lifestyle choice, or any political agenda that may or may not be interwoven into the narrative of this film. I will save all of that for a post-review follow-up video. So if you genuinely believe that any or all negative criticism of this film must come from some sort of alt-right agenda, I invite you to respond to this review. You will not hear me dismiss Rey as a Mary Sue, or talk about how the movie seems to hate men, or that whole Cantobite sequence about hating the rich. This review will be a politic-free review of Star Wars The Last Jedi. Besides that, this review will also be a comprehensive review of The Last Jedi. I am not going to cherry pick out my favorite or least favorite parts of the film so that I can paint an unfair picture. I'm going to be talking about every scene, which of course means that it will be one of my longer reviews, no doubt broken into several parts. Finally, I'm going to be as objective as I can with my final score. To do that, I needed to come up with a way that I can honestly say that as I write this introduction to the review, I have no idea what the score will in fact be. So, I came up with a system that I will now call the official anti-trekker objective-subjective film quotient. Because why not? So how does that work? Quite simple. In the upper right-hand corner of this screen will be two icons. The red icon, representing things I did not like about the film, and the green icon, representing things I did like about the film. With every scene that I review, I will be discussing character, plot, story, etc. If on one of those elements I feel neutral, that is, I didn't find it compelling nor detracting in any way, I will do nothing. However, If a specific element was, in my opinion, compelling, I will give it 1 green point for being good, 2 green points for being great, or 3 green points for being mind-blowingly awesome. If something is detracting from the film, I will give it 1 red point if it is bad, 2 red points if it is horrible, and 3 red points if it is downright offensive. In the end, I will divide the number of green points by the total number of points, then multiply that result by 10 to arrive at my final score out of 10. So, for example, if at the end of the review there are 15 green points and 5 red points, that would be 15 divided by 20, which of course is 0.75, which multiplied by 10 would give the film a score of 7.5 out of 10. Because nothing makes for a more compelling video review than math. Using this system will do a few things. First, it does mean that as I write this review, I have no idea what the final score will be. And while my prior videos on The Last Jedi have been extremely negative, I have to say that there are plenty of things about the film that were done well. So it may score higher than even I think. It also forces me to justify that score, and I invite you all to challenge me on any specific point in which you disagree. I am open to changing my mind on some things. Next, it will help me sort out the nitpicking from the serious gripes I have with the film. Many people complain on some of my Star Trek reviews that I was giving an extremely negative review about even Best of Both Worlds Part 1, which I gave a 10 out of 10, because I do tend to nitpick on the film. If, for example, I were to talk about how silly it was the way the porgs flap their wings, if I didn't give it a red point, you would know that I was just being nitpicky about it. If, however, I gave it 3 red points, you would know that I really hated the porgs. Finally, it helps me to be honest. I will get into my personal bias in just a minute, but while I make it no secret that I did not like the way that The Last Jedi was politicized, by using the system of points to score the film, it makes it completely transparent to where the scoring is coming from. So if you notice that I start giving points for purely political reasons, you can call me out on it. Let me start out by putting out there what my personal bias is. I am not a right-wing Republican, nor am I a left-wing Democrat. In fact, I am neither a Republican nor a Democrat at all. For those of you outside the United States, those are the 2 major political parties in the United States. I am registered as non-affiliated. Each election, I vote for who I think is the best candidate. This is not meant to be a political discussion, but in the years that I have been able to vote, I've never missed a presidential election. I will not go into each election specifically. However, I will simply say this, that I voted for Democrats twice, Republicans twice, and third-party candidates 4 times. If you can guess correctly every election and how I voted, congratulations, your prize will be quantum. If I were to sum up my political ideology, it's, well, not really a libertarian, I guess. I say that because while I agree with the libertarians more than, say, the Democrats or the Republicans, I strongly disagree with them on several issues. For the most part, I am a federal minimalist. I think that the federal government should not be involved in anything it does not have a compelling interest in. However, anything it does do, I think it needs to do well. So, for example, I do not support the fact that the FCC wastes time and resources to tell us which cable channels should be included in basic cable. Yes, that is actually a thing. Nor do I support the public funding of arts and entertainment in general. I think that the progressive tax system is a joke. I'm not a socialist, but I do support various social programs. I'm not a capitalist, but I support a free and open marketplace. I am an independent who believes that the government's primary role is to ensure the security of the nation as a whole and protect the lives within its borders. Nothing more and nothing less. Enough about my political beliefs. Let's get into my history with Star Wars. I am old enough to remember seeing Star Wars in theaters many times. Why did I not mention the full title of the movie, you may ask? I did. In 1977, a little movie simply called Star Wars hit theaters, and it was mind-blowing. A cinematic space adventure unlike anything we'd ever seen before in scope and style. Even though I had already been an avid Star Trek fan for years, I could still remember it like it was yesterday. I was 9 years old, and my parents decided to take me to this new movie that had just come out. They literally had to drag me to the theater, kicking and screaming, because, well, back in the 70s, in my area, Star Trek aired every evening at 6 o'clock p.m., and we left to go to the movie at about 5:30. Hey, it was almost 6 o'clock. I had to watch Star Trek. because even though there were only 79 episodes of the show, there was no Star Trek films or later shows other than the animated series, I could not just bring myself to miss an episode, especially if it was one of my favorite episodes, which, talking to my parents later on, apparently I had about 79 favorite episodes back then. And if I'm not already sounding old, keep in mind that there was no on-demand streaming, no Netflix, no Blu-rays, DVDs, or even VHS copies to watch. You could watch it when it was broadcast, or you would miss it. Period. Well, a couple hours later, as we walked back to my dad's 1972 Dodge Dart, I remember telling my mom and dad that I would gladly miss one night of Star Trek to see that again. And see it again, I did. And again. And again. Thanks to kids like me, Star Wars became the highest grossing film of all time. And to this day, it's still the 13th highest grossing film of all time. And it's the second highest when you adjust for inflation, behind only Gone with the Wind. So I can honestly say that I've been an avid fan of Star Wars from the beginning. So yes, this franchise matters to me. Many years later, I attended the world premiere of The Phantom Menace, and at the time, I actually really enjoyed it. Yes, I thought Jar Jar was stupid, but I did genuinely think he was funny from time to time. And that lightsaber fight with Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, and Darth Maul, that was just awesome. Was it as good as the original? No, but it was good. However, unlike the original trilogy, the prequels did not age well. When The Force Awakens came out, I thought it was good. Not great, but I would say better than the prequels, but not mind-blowing. I thought that Rey as a character was a bit overpowered, and I didn't like the fact that she seemed to be able to use the Force like a Jedi, even though she had no experience or training of any kind, to which many of my friends commented,
well, that's just because she was secretly trained by Luke, and he used the Force to erase her memory.
Yeah, that panned out well. But overall, I thought she was likable. And I thought she had good chemistry with Finn. And speaking of Finn, I loved his character in both concept and execution. Finn was hands down my favorite new character. The idea of a reformed stormtrooper was brilliant. The fact that he was inept with social interactions and piloting, but great with blasters and hand-to-hand combat made perfect sense. And his relationship with Poe was awesome. And speaking of awesome, Poe was fun. He was a swashbuckling hero, dashing, quick with his blaster, the best pilot in the Resistance. He kind of reminded me of Errol Flynn from Captain Blood, which, by the way, that is a great movie, and I would love to see that one remade. The new trinity of Rey, Finn, and Poe showed a lot of promise. Were they perfect? No. But then neither was the original trinity of Luke, Leia, and Han. Of the trinity of trinities, the weakest was Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Padme. Or was it Obi-Wan, Padme, and Qui-Gon? Or maybe Yoda, Obi-Wan, and Padme? Yeah, you know, it's really kind of hard to nail down a solid trinity for the prequels, but I'm sure that Obi-Wan and Padme were 2/3 of it. Anyway, then along came Rogue One, the first non-episodic Star Wars adventure. And that really felt to me like it was unnecessary. It looked great, had some cool scenes in it, but ultimately was kind of forgettable. Honestly, the only character I can remember by name without checking IMDb was Jyn, and I found her to be a bit flat at best. I really liked Carrot Imee, Churros Wheat, Cherries Mute, Donnie Yen's character. And Galaxy S9 was kind of funny, but the movie was just there. It told a story that we already knew, with an ending that, while exciting, was just an updated replacement for 2 sentences from the opening crawl from Star Wars. Quote, "Rebel spaceships striking from a hidden base have won their first victory against the evil Galactic Empire. During the battle, Rebel spies managed to steal secret plans to the Empire's ultimate weapon, the Death Star, an armored space station with enough power to destroy an entire planet." End quote. Yep, that about sums up the movie, so why did we need this movie again? Fast forward to December of 2017. The Last Jedi is about to come out. Many fans, including myself, were excited because of all the various points that were brought up in The Force Awakens that were going to finally be resolved. Some major, some not so major. Those points included, where did the First Order come from? Who are Rey's parents?
Where did Supreme Leader Snoke come from? Where did the Resistance come from?
How did Anakin's lightsaber that was passed down to Luke end up with Maz Kanata? Why did Anakin's lightsaber call out to Rey? How is Rey able to use advanced force abilities like telekinesis and the Jedi mind trick with zero training? How did Snoke turn Ben Solo? Why did Ben Solo change his name to Kylo Ren? Who are the Knights of Ren? Why did Luke go into exile? Why did Luke leave a map in R2-D2? And on that, why is the map in R2-D2 only a partial map? How did R2-D2 get back to the Resistance? If R2-D2 never left, then how did he get a map to Luke's exact location? And also, if R2-D2 never left, how did Luke fly his X-Wing to Ahch-To without an astromech droid? And if he didn't need an astromech droid, why does every instance of anyone flying an X-Wing ever require an astromech droid?
There are more, but you get the idea. The Force Awakens was set up, as J.J. Abrams likes to call it, a mystery box. A lot of mysteries were set up. Going into The Last Jedi, I honestly did not expect all of these questions to be answered. But when you set up a question, it does need to be answered. So let's take a look at the follow-up film that will answer many of these questions. The Last Jedi. Until then, take care.
Hit the like button, you will. Likes lead to comments. Comments lead to conversations. Conversations lead to understanding. Go to Patreon and support the anti-trucker you must, if supporting his videos you want. Yes, support his videos. Then listen to this at the end of the videos. You will not